In this module, we will discuss the basics of turf renovation. In order to grow healthy turf, one must first have healthy soil. Soil is the most important element for the growth of any plant and sometimes the hardest and most costly to remediate. Healthy soil is non-compacted, drains well, has organic matter present, and has a pH within the correct range. Compaction is the most common limiting factor for plant growth and water movement in soils. A healthy soil is ideally made up of 50% solid matter and 50% pore space. Under ideal moisture conditions, 25% of the pore space is filled with water, the other 25% air. Compacted soils do not have pore space and therefore do not have an adequate amount of gas exchange or water movement through the soil. Compaction can be improved by incorporating organic materials into the soil. Depending on the level of compaction, this can be done by aerating the soil, then having the material blown or spread over the soil being treated. Another method is to have the material blown or spread over the soil being treated, and then tilling with a heavy-duty tiller. If the compaction is very severe, a small excavator can be used to first break up the soil, then the organic material can be tilled into the soil. A note of caution. It is important to not overwork or over-till the soil. You want your soil to maintain some of its blocky structure. If your soil is turned into a fine powder, you will have created an environment even more prone to compaction. Saturated soils do not allow critical gas exchanges to occur within the cells. Plant roots need to breathe, and oxygen is also very important for the breakdown of organic material within the soil. Soil that does not drain is easy to diagnose by visually inspecting for standing water during and after rain events and by physically walking across the turf and observing areas that remain saturated. You may also notice turf weeds that especially like saturated areas, like nutsedge. Methods to improve the drainage of an area include increasing pore space by aerating the area, then incorporating organic matter and very coarse sand, by changing the grade to direct water from high areas into low areas and ultimately into less compacted soils where it can be filtered into the water table, or by installing artificial drain paths with stone, pipe, and catch basins. Organic matter is made up of plant and animal residues in various stages of decomposition. Organic matter is naturally added to soils when roots die, plant leaves drop, and soil animals like insects and worms die. Soils that have good organic matter content have good pore space. The good open pore space leads to good water infiltration and high nutrient levels as soil organisms consume the organic matter, then release the nutrients in a form that is available for plants. Soil pH can be determined from the results of a soil sample. The pH value of the soil indicates which nutrients are available for plant uptake. At different pH levels, nutrients become chemically bound to the soil. The soil pH that allows maximum plant nutrient availability is within the range of 5.9 and 6.2. Soil pH values lower than 5.0 actually lead to toxic amounts of aluminum, iron, and manganese. Values greater than 7 lead to many nutrient availability deficiencies. 6.2 is the ideal soil pH for growing turf. The pH of your soil can be found here. Also note that the soil sample measures the amount of nutrients present, although not necessarily available depending on the pH. Based on the soil pH and nutrient levels, the soil sample will also contain a recommendation for fertilizing to add more nutrients and/or lime applications to make those nutrients available. Soil pH can be elevated by adding lime. The rates will vary depending on the liming product you use. In general, 12 pounds of highly concentrated lime product per 1,000 square feet will elevate the pH of the soil by half of a point over 10 to 12 weeks. At that time, another soil sample should be taken to see if another lime application is needed. To perform a turf renovation, first determine What are the limiting factors of your soil? Inspect the soil to note possible issues with drainage. Next, perform a soil sample. If it is very hard to get your soil probe into the ground, you know you have issues with compaction. Soil should be pulled from multiple spots around the site. In doing this, you can determine if your compaction issues are isolated or widespread. Examine your soil sample plugs and inspect for organic matter. Compacted soils rarely have adequate organic matter. Upon receipt of your soil sample, check the results to see what the pH of the soil is. If the level is lower than 6, an application of lime should be performed. Also on your soil sample, you may have a recommendation to add other nutrients. Adding lime and fertilizer to the soil can be done at the same time that organic matter is added if that is also necessary. After steps have been taken to improve the soil, you will then use seed or sod to re-establish turf in the treated area. If you have used seed, also top dress the area with a product like pen mulch, which will help keep the seed moist during germination and in contact with the soil. Avoid using straw for this purpose unless it is specifically requested. The optimum time for seeding cool season grasses in our area is late summer to early fall. The ideal time for seeding warm season grasses is mid-spring to early summer. Make sure that while your new turf is getting established, it is receiving proper amounts of water. Seeded areas want frequent but light waterings. Sod will be watered more thoroughly, but it is important to avoid saturation as the roots require oxygen for growth and establishment.